Yeah, so the question was, and I think this is an important question for us who live in the city, where sometimes space is limited, or you don't have space in high rises and apartment buildings and projects and things like that, right? This is where relying on your community is paramount, and this is why I said this notion of individualism is a myth. First of all, none of us are individuals. First of all, it's a myth. And second of all, if we believe the myth, it's very dangerous for our survival. We have to be able to recognize our interdependence with everybody and other species. So knowing that going in, that you're not an individual, and the people in your apartment building or your project or whatever it is you live with this limited space are in the same situation as you are, and that you all want to get together and help each other survive, having that attitude is the first step. And then, again, you identify pieces of land and you get creative. Lots of people have windows. Well, you can grow a ton of food in a window box. You have small patches of land, or an apartment complex might have a front yard or a backyard. And you guys can get together and say, look, we want to use this for another purpose. So I think that the issue is not space for you as much as organization. Getting people together is the real issue. Because you can find the space. And again, if there's any, if you feel like you don't have enough knowledge about how to be creative using space, there's lots of us out here who will help you. Because I have such a small backyard, I had to be very creative. So I've had some experience growing in small spaces. But I think the bigger issue is organization, how you can get your family, friends, and community together to wherever there is a space to grow, you can grow it.
One more question. One more.
I have a question. For the people that do come in, eat food, I'm from Louisiana, we used to eat raccoons. And there are a lot against eating animals that come in like rabbits and raccoons. There's some good food that come on my property.
I don't know about that because I'm not a hunter, so I don't know. A hunter or a trapper, I've never done that, so it's not even in my mind. Right? But it's a really good question. Is there a law against eating the food that kind of wanders into your backyard? One of the other strategies that I'm working on, I've written about I write for a blog called the Environmental and Food Justice blog. And I write about food justice issues in the city. It's a really good blog if you're interested in some of the bigger issues around these kinds of issues. But I wrote a blog about foraging. That there's lots of food everywhere, and there's food probably out in that yard right there. And if you know and can identify that's a food source, you can use that. And once we get this mentality of foraging and relying on what the environment already provides for us, we can begin to think about, well, instead of having that yellow tree out there that doesn't give us any food, why don't I plant apple trees? Right? And why don't we get the city and our aldermen to plant apple trees along the streets, or not, I don't know if along the streets is the best idea, but wherever, as opposed to these other kinds of trees. And so that we can have an environment in which we can just go out, any of us in our community, and we can eat, just walking out our doors onto the street, walking down the street to the bus stop. I can have a full meal by the time I get to the bus stop. Our environment has that built into it, but we have gotten away from it, and we've sort of destroyed the abundance that nature has already provided for us. So foraging is a good idea, and then, like, as you say, if a raccoon comes in or a rabbit, you can repel it or you can eat it. Right? So one has to get savvy about all of these kinds of options for survival.
And just one other thing, the shell of snails.
Can you stand up?
They help the soil.
The shell of snails?
I mean, the snails that are usually called escargot. Don't they help the soil?
Yes.
Okay.
We have to understand our relationship to all other beings and the importance of things like bees and worms and some of these other bugs. Spiders are really important in your garden. People hate spiders because they have the big webs, and you run into the webs and they're scary. But they're our friends. And so we have to have a growing knowledge of all of how this all fits together. Thank you.
you next year in 2012.
I've got to run too. I can't. Unfortunately, I'm going to stick around for this. There's another issue. How do you defend it? As you mentioned earlier, right? I want to stick around for that one. Thank you.
Before, what we have is, if you understand things from a divine standpoint, especially in our teaching,